Everyone, this is the Blessing and Family Ministry team. We're happy to bring you a topic that is really near and dear to our hearts, a really important thing that people often come to us with, and understandably, is how do you get yourself out of a discouraged state of mind, a discouraged situation, especially regarding the matching and blessing. In a matching process and throughout our lives, we're often going up and down in terms of our excitement and willingness to tackle this and to put ourselves out there and take risks. And sometimes we do get discouraged, and it's understandable. So we really just want to answer that question at the heart of what you can do, or what you can do to help somebody who is experiencing discouragement in their lives and just maybe feeling just hitting up against a brick wall and you don't know how to proceed. So this is really important. We hope to really be helpful for you and just give all the insight we can right here in this video. Okay, so we're going to start with Christian. So how would you, I want to throw it to Christian to answer the question of how would you encourage somebody who is feeling discouraged or unmotivated in their matching process?
This is a very good question, because there is no short answer for this. No, because it depends on individuals. It depends on the situations, because some people may have gone to the blessing before and some people may have not. So I think one thing is to understand the person that you are speaking with, and see where the person is, and did the person have some experiences with the blessing themselves or somebody else that they know. And also, what is their understanding of the blessing? Because that also may give an idea as to how you can help them to get them unstuck. Because if they really don't care much about the blessing, it's going to be a lot of work, to motivate them. But if they care about the blessing, that is a very good place to start with. So I think one thing, what I can say is understand where the person is, the situation or the person's experience, and also the person's understanding of the blessing.
Yeah, I can jump on that. I think that key point of overall creating your essentially your vision and your goals regarding what you want out of your life, what you want your marriage, what you want your family, what you want your blessing to look like, to feel like, to be like. And I think that the state of mind, the perspective of discouragement is often a result of losing that vision, losing that focus. It's like we have a certain period of time, usually when we're younger and a little more naive and adventurous, where we just want to I want to get in a relationship and have an awesome family. And then maybe after you're going through some experiences, or maybe after having some of your good friends go through some difficult relationships, you can kind of get discouraged and start to lose focus of what's really important, what you really want clearly in your life, and what you want for your marriage. So I would start also with that is make that really crystal clear again, and try to figure out what is it that you really want, and do anything it takes to get there. Sometimes it might take doing drastically different things in your lives. What we often find is that when we get older in our lives, the more busy we become, the less important things like this tend to be. It's an unfortunate reality that the more busy we are with school, with work, with obligations, etc., the less important God, faith, the blessing, spirituality, and your life, your long-term happiness become, our health, our physical, mental health, etc. Because our time and energy is mostly consumed by things that demand our attention the most, right? It's a natural state. But if we can refocus our priority, and maybe that means having to change things up, maybe that means we have to get a counselor or a life coach, or I don't know, whatever. Maybe you have to talk with your parents or somebody and have give and take with somebody. I think that's a really key point in getting yourself out of a state of, I don't want to say, depression, but really out of a state of just in a funk, as some people call it, in a ditch, in a rut. Is you just have to talk to someone, have give and take with someone. When you have that give and take, you can take yourself out of that state and actually create something new, right? So I would start there, is just find the right person to talk with. It can be a family member. It can be a matching supporter. It can be one of us, the BFM, but find somebody and just get yourself. That's the first step, is just to say it out loud, and sometimes when we say something, say our situation out loud, it's a lot, it becomes a lot more manageable and a lot more, I don't want to say smaller, but it becomes more like we can have control over the situation more. So I'd recommend that. Yana, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really great point. And that's an awesome example of a simple next step, because that's something I often recommend, especially to sisters, because I feel like sometimes we can be off into planning the whole future, especially thinking about kids and timing. And a lot of times that creates so much pressure, especially if you're feeling discouraged about timing or things haven't worked out. There's so many pressures that we're adding. And I always think, how can you take away some of that pressure? And often what I've found is that many times people are thinking too far ahead in the future and trying to work things out there. Like, well, should I take this job, or where should I live? Because I don't know if I'm going to get, instead of going to that simple next step of, well, what's something I can do right now based on my current situation to really start moving, something forward. I think we get really stuck in these thoughts about the future and weighing on these pressures, which are important, right? It's part of their vision, but it can sometimes be a little bit debilitating or in the way, over planning a little too much that's out of your control, right? And instead of trusting that God's going to be working through that, but you've got to take little action, right? To let God work. And especially through people, God works through people and engaging. So I think that's a really great practical step it can take.
So I think, thank you, Yana. I think a situation that many people do find themselves in, practically speaking, is maybe they've been considering matching process for a while, or they've been approaching different families, or families have been communicating. It just hasn't worked out for whatever reason, either because they themselves have just been declining and not willing to move forward. But along the line of discouragement is also unwillingness, right? Or unmotivated to do things. So if someone is unwilling or unmotivated or discouraged because of, situation is not working out, matching process is not working out, what would you encourage them to do? Or what would you say to them?
Yeah, unmotivated is hard. I liked what Christian said, and you both touched on, what does the blessing mean to you? Why do you want to get blessed? Going back to the why, I think that's a key motivator, right? You've got to have sort of a why. And I think a lot of times, not the blessing itself and what it is isn't always thought into consideration. Sometimes the why is I want a person to be with, to go through life with and share those things. And I think maybe I encourage them to maybe deepen that why a little bit, because that's exactly the challenge, right? If you're wanting this person to go through life with is your motivation, and you feel like a lot of the matching processes haven't worked out, and it's, maybe it's a chance to reflect a bit more deeper on, what else is there motivating, not depending on this person and finding this person, but what kind of person do you want to be and bring into your relationship? And it kind of removes it a little bit from all this stuff that's happening to me to well, what can I do about it? Because when you're demotivated, I feel you feel totally kind of out of control. You don't have anything in control. You feel a little helpless, or you feel things you've tried haven't worked, so it's pointless. But it's a hard space to be in. But I think it's still, at the end of the day, it's got to be something you do, right? There's not going to come along this magic person that's going to make it all easier, even though it's so, this relates to a lot of things in life. It's so easy to want to look for a magic solution that's going to come, or somebody who's going to fix all your problems. But it's part of the work you've got to do to really help create the life that you want. And God really wants that for you. I feel God really wants us to be clear about what we're looking for and who we are. And that takes work, and sometimes these downs in life and really difficult phases can help And also knowing what you don't want to do. That's actually a good starting point if you're in a really negative. Like, what are things that you really don't want? Can maybe help you get more clear about what you want, your why.
I don't want to wake up this morning.
That's
I don't want to
true.
eat salad.
Yeah, I would say that lack of motivation is a serious problem, but it is a position that most people can get out of. In a situation like that, personally, what I would recommend is the person to make a list. Make a list of things that they remember have caused them to get to where they are. So if they can come up with a list like that, then it will be, I will not say easy, but probably easier to guide a person out of that space of less motivation into a little bit more motivation. So yeah, that's something that I would suggest. Yeah.
So making a list of things to identify the reason how you got where you are.
Yes, exactly.
Cool. Yeah, I want to second that actually. That's pretty cool. If you imagine like if you hired somebody to clean your house, or like one of those guru, feng shui gurus that come to your house and they clean it up, and Yana knows all about this. And they clean it and they make sure it's all good. But unless you identify how it got messy in the first place, it's just going to be the same within a few weeks, right? And this goes for addiction. This goes for anything, any time. So I think that's a really key point, is figuring out how you got here. One thing Yana touched on that I want to share a story about actually is there's a close brother of mine, friend, who was married for over a decade and has children. And this is an example of the years that I've been helping people go through the matching process and receive the blessing. This is probably one of the most encouraging and actually personally inspiring stories. Is he, divorced after a decade basically of being married and having children, and very, very dire situation, kind of a messy divorce. And, he lost a lot. He lost basically everything in his life, financially as well. And so he, after a course of basically self-introspection and reflection and years of really pain, a lot of pain, because he tried so hard to make an ideal family, a good family. And at the end of the day, he came out of this situation, currently, still growing, still healing, but feeling a closer bond with God and a stronger understanding what the blessing is. That's what he told me. And I was like, that's amazing. Like, I've never heard someone go through that much turmoil and difficulty, and at the end of the day say, I feel closer to God and true parents, and I have a better understanding of the blessing, because he looked into himself and because he asked the questions and he was honest with himself. So I think that's really beautiful. And I feel like no matter how discouraged you can be, I feel like he was really the bottom of discouragement, of the pits of hell, really, in terms of his motivation, unmotivation. But at the end of the day, he just invested himself. He stopped blaming, because along the line of discouragement and unmotivation, there is a hint of blame. And that's where we have to be careful. As long as we are blaming others, as long as we're blaming a situation or some past relationship or experience or my parents, we're always in that situation, not taking responsibility for something. It's not necessarily your fault, but there is some responsibility to be taken. And there is some responsibility, especially as Yana was touching on, there is something that you can do to be proactive regardless of the situation. So I was really proud of this friend of mine who really got out of this situation, or into a situation where he was feeling really more connected to God and on the path to receiving the blessing himself. So I think it's really beautiful and really an encouraging story for regardless of where you are. I know, like Christian mentioned earlier, everyone's in a different situation. And that's why we always need to connect back to God, because God is in all of us, right? As Jesus said, the same God that is in Jesus is in all of us and in true parents. And it's through connecting with that God and connecting with people and connecting with your matching support or your team that you can find a path or find a way to the blessing, regardless of your situation. And we can tell you with confidence, we've seen a whole lot of different situations. And, everyone's unique, but in some ways we're all connected and united. So we hope that can be of help to you guys. Is there anything else you wanted to add, Yana or Christian?
I just think that's a great ending point. Or Christian, you can go first. I was going to say as an ending point, that God is your biggest fan and rooting for you, like how much Heavenly Parent wants you to experience an incredible blessing in married life. And yeah, the creator of the entire universe is your biggest fan. That's like so important to remember and connect to. I love.
Yeah, I just wanted to say following on the story that you shared, Benjy, because one thing that we usually don't miss about, that we don't focus on in terms of the blessing, is that the blessing is something that is supposed to benefit God through parents. We know that. The world, yes, we know that. But also myself too. I have to grow. The blessing is like a platform that we are given so that we can grow, become ideal individuals. Becoming ideal individuals doesn't mean that we stay the same individuals that we were when we were 5 or when we were single. We have to be different people, and I have to be conscious of that in my relationship with my spouse, that is there any growth in me through this relationship? Any relationship that doesn't provide growth, of course, it's gonna end, it's gonna break. If there is no growth in life, life is meaningless. If there is no growth in love, that love is meaningless. In everything that we do, there has to be growth. If I'm going to school, I want to learn. If I'm not learning, school will be meaningless. So growth is what constitutes us as individuals, us as spouses, and our relationships, the blessing, all that. And like you said earlier, if we keep blaming, finding faults in others, we cannot grow. For us to grow, we have to be responsible. We have to be conscious. We have to take ownership. So this is what the blessing does. The blessing gives us a broader platform where we can really become those ideal individuals that God, our ultimate partner, wants us to be. Go blessing.
Yeah. And growth, I've said this maybe before, but like growth, it's so great. It's so empowering, right? You're growing in love and you're growing in the blessing. You're always something you can do. Like even the term fall in love never made sense to me because like you just boop, and then what can you do? It's like there's nothing intentional about it. And I just feel like that perspective you said, Christian, is so key for life.
All right. Well, I think we'll end it there. Thank you all for watching. We're cheering for you. Let us know if you need anything. God bless.